what's up, everyone? It's your girl V, and welcome to another episode of Mindful Unfoldings. It's a new week, new episode, and not a new guest, but a new guest. Today he's alone, Mr. Elijah. How are you doing today?
I'm fine, V. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. So I brought you back for a reason. If you guys haven't watched the previous episode, please go watch it so you can actually get where and why we're having the talk about relationships in today's age, society, or just like in general, actually. And I chose Mr. Elijah because he's a life coach, and he said some things to me and to everyone in the studio that actually like challenge you to think about certain things. And I thought, I've always wanted to have this conversation, but I just didn't know who to have it with. And now I feel like you're the perfect person to have it with.
I feel so flattered right now.
Really? Okay, so are you ready?
I'm very ready.
I'm going to get straight right into it because I want to cover all the questions. So my first question to you is, what do you think are the most common reasons why relationships don't work in today's age?
I think before we even answer that, V, we need to ask, why are people getting into relationships? And why do we need to understand that? It's going to give us an understanding of why relationships fail in a first place, because these days people don't go into relationship to give. They go into relationship to find what they can get out of those relationships. And once you go into a relationship with that mindset, you're going to have a problem, because you're not going to invest, but you're going to withdraw. And now and again, when people go into a relationship to withdraws, it's purely because they could be suffering from something. So they go into a relationship because of need. And sometimes they go into a relationship because they want to fill a void. And sometimes, they're looking for something that they do not have and want to replace or fill. Now, where am I taking you? People don't go into relationships based on their values. And as a result, they pick up anyone who come and proposes them if they're a woman. And for guys, they look for someone who can fall, for them, in essence. They don't go and say, but who am I? Do I know myself, number one? Number two, do I know what I'm suffering from? Do I know my strengths, my weaknesses? Do I know where I'm going? Do I have a vision? Because once you have a vision, you know that if I'm going to a certain space, I need somebody who can walk with me this journey and help me to become a better person in the process. Instead, they go to look for somebody who can feel their wound or who can heal their wound or that void. So, and as a result, you go around sleeping or engaging with different people because you cannot find that which fills that void. Because it's a wound that is forever bleeding. And that's why we don't have healthy relationships. We date to go and become toxic with other people that are like us. And we do not even realize that we have some kind of toxicity. So we have walked away from what relationships are ought to be. And we walked into how do we want relationships to be. And that's where the problem is. We haven't defined the place. We have defined only what we want. But when we want to be in a place, that place only, and I'm going to tell you why a place it's important. When God brought a man and a woman in the world, the first thing that God fixed was the environment, was the place where that man and woman were going to stay. The Bible tells us that the world was devoid. It was without form. And God said, it's not good for me to bring these people here if this place is like this. So he had to create an environment that's going to be conducive for men and women to, to live peacefully, but also to have a reflection of who they are. When you live in a space that is like a dump, your mind and everything that you do will be will be that of a dump. So people don't realize that. They go into dumps to look for peace. You'll never find peace in a dump. And the reason why they don't find peace is because inside they are like that dump. So there's no peace inside. That's why they go around looking for places that look like them. They attract that which they are.
Okay. So let's go back a bit. And I think I'll also answer the question. But why did you get into a relationship
Yeah. Okay. Now,
Why? Like, what were the values? Okay, what values did you look for in your partner?
Yeah.
Like, what did you want out of that relationship? Because at the end of the day, in as much as we say people go into relationships because they want to fill some sort of void, I think also people, well, for me, I go into relationship for companionship
Yeah.
and for partnership. Because at the end of the day, I'm not just dating you to have fun. I also want to be a mom one day. I want to have kids. I want to, raise a family and have a family of my own. So now that goes into you look for someone you feel like is compatible enough for you to build the life that you want or the lifestyle that you want.
Yeah.
So when you went into a relationship, what were you looking for in your partner? And what did you have to compromise on? Because I think a lot of times we have standards and there's no one perfect. There's no one that's going to tick every box that we look for in a partner. So when you went into your marriage or your relationship, what were you looking for?
I'm going to help you a bit here. I want to take you back. You said, when I go into a relationship, I'm looking for companionship. I want to become a mom one day. That is what people say. But they don't realize that 97% of their lives are controlled by their subconscious mind. Only 3% is controlled by the conscious mind. What you said to me now about I'm looking for a companionship is coming from a conscious mind. But the subconscious has got a mind of its own that says, you say this with your mouth, but in reality, in here you are programmed to go and look for this and that. So people don't know that. So we go through life with what we call defense mechanisms. So people most of the time are not in control. They say things, they do the opposite. And that's why even when you meet a person, they promise you this, but their actions are opposite to what they've told you. It's because they're not in control. So you may want to have a companion or companionship, but the people that you attract are telling us a different story. You attract married men, you attract people who are older than you attract people of certain class, and you don't know why. It's because your brain has been programmed to go and look for that particular person, even though your mouth says something else.
But how do you attract married men, for example?
And I was just giving you an example to say you then end up attracting that because you could be, without you realizing, looking for the father's love. So instead, you are not even aware of that. So you go into this relationship to fulfill that father need that you have. So I needed to clarify that before I give you an answer.
Okay.
So if you have a question, I want you to hold it. So you asking me, what was I looking for? It's very key that you understand that I've been in a whole lot of relationships. So I don't want to speak as though I got this one right. No. I've gone into many relationships because I was looking for things that I did not know that I was looking for them. So, for example, I would look at a woman that I would identify with my aunt, my mother, and they would provide some kind of a need that I wanted. So you find that we come from a place where we were suffering at home. And this woman, and I'm going to give you an example, at school, she comes to school with some good lunch that I never had. And I knew that if I go with this woman, I'm going to have an opportunity to have an access to this lunch. So I was going there purely because of an empty stomach. And because she was a kind person, she would share stuff with me. I thought I was in love with her, but no. I went into a relationship because of poverty. I did not really want this person. But because she was also kind to me, she gave me a hand. Then I thought that hand is what I loved. Meanwhile, the hand that I was looking for was for bread. So then we went to other relationships where I would see this particular person that I was envious of. She was smart in class, and I wanted that intellect. So I didn't have it. So I was falling for the intellect and not the person. So you start to see that the people that you dated were not necessarily the type that you would have dated. But because they had something that you wanted, you went for them. Until the one started to grow old and realize that I was going into relationships purely because of need. And I'm going to speak about now sex here. There's a lot of people that we dated because of sex. Because when we were growing up, we were exposed to porn, at a very young age. And we saw these models that were acting these porn scenes, and we thought, this is what we want to have. So in order for me to have access to that, I need to date this kind of women.
Yeah.
So you started to look for those women that would fulfill that sexual desire. Not because I wanted to have a woman get married, have children with them. I knew that for me to have this particular kind of fulfillment when it comes to sex, I would have to date a V kind of woman. So I went for women like that. And it was not a matter of me having a relationship, but it was a matter of let me go there, get fulfilled, and then move to the next target. So I was not dating these women because I loved them. There was something that I wanted from them, and I got. They didn't know that. Probably some of them dated me because they saw me as a potential. I didn't see them as potential until when one grows up to realize that, okay, now I need to stop because I keep going around hating innocent people. Who am I? What do I want? I had to realize that I was broken inside, In fact, I wrote a book called A Man in Pain, which speaks about the pains that we experience growing up, that it is these pains that make us to go around dating different women, hating them, not because we are bad people, but because we are hating. We are loving from a place of hate. And the moment you love from a place of hate people, hate people. So a man can only give what he has. So even when my mouth was saying, I'm looking for somebody, my pain was saying, go around and keep hating them. So at this point, I had to do introspection and sit and wait to say, why am I in a relationship in the first place? What do I want? Who I am? Then I had to set my values, set priorities, define my vision. And once I've done that, I looked at myself and I say, in order for me to walk this journey, I would need a person like that and like that and like that. And when I went to look for my current partner, I had to look at things that would fit in with the values that I had.
Yeah.
So I took my values and I said, okay, what are your values? And then we shared the values and we said, okay, they are aligning. And not necessarily that we had an exercise, but I knew what questions to ask. Because usually you think about it, V. The guy that you dated came and proposed. It was that. You liked him. He looked cool. He liked you. You looked cool. And that was it. There was no further conversation regarding, but hang on. Where are you going? I want to know. In life, who are you? What are your fears? What are your goals? What is V all about? When you say, look, I love to go help people, what is the motivation behind that? So that when I support you, I'm supporting you knowing very well that this is her value. You understand what I'm saying? So it is those things that I had to sit down and do. And only that I had to identify with someone that I never identified with before because I was looking for a need and not necessarily a love and companionship. What people go around saying they're looking for love, people are not looking for love. They cannot even define what love looks like. So they are looking for that which they think could mimic love. And if somebody says, I love you, they're thinking maybe this is it. And they start to put things to that love. If he gives me money, he loves me. If he posts me on Facebook, he loves me. If he buys me booze, he loves me. So all those things that you can quickly remove and the love is gone. And that's why some people fight with their partners. You don't love me, why? You're not posting me on social media.
You're not giving me money.
You're not giving me money. You're not giving me attention. And if that's how you define love, then you do not have love inside of you.
Yo. Okay, then do love languages.
Yeah.
Then how do those come into play?
Okay.
Because now some people now define love as if you can cater to my love languages, or then you love me because you do all of these things. So how does that come into work? Because I know for me, my biggest love language is words of affirmation. And I think now I can hold myself accountable when you say we go into relationships looking for things and what we can gain out of them. I think because growing up, I never really got words of affirmation.
Yes.
So now when I go to a partner, if you're not going to affirm me and reassure me in some sense, I sort of don't want to be with you because that's like that's my inner child screaming. Yeah. And if I'm going to spend the rest of my life with you, I need you to affirm in me, to remind me and to just say like, we're in this because of X, Y, Z. And, I love you. I care about you. All of these things. Yeah. But now there's things like physical touch, there's gifting, there's all of these extravagant things. Now, what's your take on that?
You need to, and I need to quickly help you there. The love language is a psychological phenomenon. So what Gary did, he took it from, I've got them in one of my books as well, and I took it as raw as it is from a psychological perspective. So I would say you use them everywhere you go. It's not only in a relationship. So he took that and put them in a relationship to say, if you are in a relationship, you can function in this way. You find people who have got love for words of affirmation. Now, I'm also very cautious here, and I don't want to sound negative, V. The words of affirmation, are they your love language, or are they a medication to heal trauma that when one was growing up experienced in a family of origin? When we were growing up, we were told you are nothing. Nobody's going to love you. Who's going to, you're not going to become anything. So we had these negative words that hurt us so much that it created trauma. So when I grow up, I want to hear the opposite of that. I want to hear people say I'm beautiful. I want to hear people say I'm wanted, because I never heard that. And I'm operating from fear that if people don't tell me this, then I cannot be holy. I cannot be myself. So I start to have self-esteem issues until somebody tells me, no, you're enough. But there's nothing wrong with you. You are enough as you are. You need to go back and start to heal the trauma. You're going to be so shocked. Let me give you now a different perspective. You say words of affirmation are my love language. But at the same time, you might have problem with touch. When somebody touches you, you might not necessarily enjoy or like that. Why? Because when you were growing up, you were molested in your family of origin. And then you had these words where you were told that you are nothing. So now you want to hear good words, but you don't want to be touched because it reminds you, in the subconscious mind, there's trauma that says, any man who touches you. That's why you find a lot of people, they want to hear nice things about themselves, but they are withdrawn. Because why? They have experienced trauma sexually. So we need to be careful that we do not take the love languages as medication, that we take them as something really that is who we are at the core, that if somebody tells me this, it motivates me. It doesn't heal, it motivates. So we need to be very careful of that. That's why when we tell the difference, people who are sick, they are chronic. They want to hear these words all the time. No, you're sick. It's not your love language. You are sick. You need to understand that even if it doesn't come, you can affirm yourself that I'm pretty, I'm beautiful, regardless of who is telling me that. But every time, post on social media and tell people how much you love me, you're sick. So you need to deal with that sickness and not call it a love language. Sex, for example. Some people use sex as a love language. Meanwhile, it's a medicine for them. They for them to feel wanted, it's if when they sleep with somebody, that I only feel loved when that happens. They don't realize that something happens to them that they think sex, or you call it a touch, is some kind of a love language. So we need to draw parallels there to say, are you using that as medication, or are you using that as something that is part of you, who you are as your value? So I'm for love languages if they are used properly.
Correctly. So is it fine if I say I use it as medication, but it's also who I am? Because I'm also a very affirming person. Yeah. Like naturally, that's just how I am. I tell my friends how much I love them, family, like naturally, so it can coexist. As
long as it does not come from pain. And you need to acknowledge that. And hence I gave an example to say, and I'm going to tell you about me. I'm like that. I want to be told, because when I was growing up, indeed, I even at some point invited one of the teachers at my graduation who said to me, at school, you will never amount to anything. You're going to become a crook. And I went to look for her after I graduated to say, come watch me graduate after you told me that I will never amount to anything. So you grow up, you do your best, you work hard. But when your efforts are not acknowledged and nobody says anything about that and you're not praised, you start to become sick. You become worried that maybe these people don't love me. So that you're sick. You need to understand that. But even if the words don't come, that's fine. I'm still happy in my own skin. Yes, I'm not going to sit here and say, but you didn't tell me that I'm pretty. Some people don't realize that they want to be told every day they are pretty. I mean, tell me something. Are you pretty?
Yes.
Have you forgotten that?
No.
Why must I remind you all the time?
You
understand what? And then, no, but I just want to know. No, but why?
Yeah.
Ask why is that important? I don't have an issue telling you, but see where that is coming from. Is it coming from a place of pain or a place of joy? Are you understanding what I'm
Yes,
saying? Yeah.
I'm
So
grasping it,
yeah.
yes.
So if we don't fix that, which come from a place of pain, we're gonna go around leaving people because I struggle with telling my wife that she's beautiful. But I do tell her that she's beautiful in a different way.
Yeah.
For example, we tell her, "Hey, what do you say?" She doesn't like that. But that's me because where I come from, that's the lingo that I used. And that's genuine from where I come from, But you, because it doesn't translate to beauty, you're thinking this guy does not see that I'm beautiful.
He's not taking me
He's
seriously.
not taking me seriously. Then you look for another guy who will tell you that. And then you fall for a charmer who uses words to deceive. You go for the one who says you are beautiful because you are hearing that which you want or you like. But that man might not necessarily understand and connect with you. But you're going to connect with him purely because of what he's saying. Why? He's giving you medicine.
Okay, it's making sense. It's coming together. I get it. But I believe they can coexist, though.
I'm not saying it doesn't. It does coexist. All I'm saying is that check the place where it's coming from.
Where it's coming from.
Yeah. I don't have an issue. We deal with a whole lot of people.
Yes.
And I can share a lot of things with you about successful people. And I'm sure you've come across people who are successful and only to realize that he committed suicide.
A lot, yes.
Oh, this guy was successful. He had money. He did all these great things. Most of the time, those people are becoming successful because there's a void. There's something that is traumatic inside of them. And in order for them to heal that, they become the best, out there. But inside, they are dying. So I'm not concerned about his success. I'm concerned about why is he becoming successful. What is the motivation behind it? So even with you, when you say, I love words of affirmation, what is the motivation behind that? So that you also understand, why do I like to hear people telling me that, V, you are something else? Because purely, it could be that when you were growing up, nobody was telling you that. There are children or that grew up and they were not looking good. They were not desirable, in the face of others. Now they've grown up, they're making their own money, they can put makeup, they can buy weaves. They thinking, no, now I am good looking, I've arrived. I want to hear people telling me the opposite of how I felt when I was growing up.
Yes.
So I want to hear people telling me that I'm beautiful. But deep down, it's a desire purely because I was not told that I was beautiful when I was growing up. And maybe I wasn't that pretty. But now that I've arrived, people must tell me. So you need to understand, is this words of affirmation or is this me trying to heal that which I've experienced when I was young?
Okay. So then now I want to know, how do you know when you found the one? Is there even the one? Or how do you know that you're in the right relationship with someone? When do you now say, actually, this is for me? Because for me, for example, I think, I'm not going to say if I found or but I feel like the minute or when I wanted to become better, I feel like most of the times in my experience, most relationships that I've ever been in were always fun-driven. I never really, if I have to be honest with myself, I don't think any of the partners I've been with, I've desired being with them long-term than of recent. And I think maybe because the minute the relationship changes me for the better, and I myself see that I have to sort of become a better person and get my life together so that when we are together, we both can now move forward as a union. I think that's when you can actually start saying, okay, this is a potential. But now when do you know that you're actually in love? Because sometimes it can also be a subconscious thing where you're now convincing yourself that, this person is the one. So now you have to go to church. You have to start working. You have to do this. You need to do that. How do you now know that this person is the one?
Look, I don't know about you, V, but maybe you have also been there. How many times have you said, this is the one? And then they turn out to be the other one.
Countless. Yeah.
You see, so for me, and I always say this, that right is relative. The one is relative, and people come into our lives for different reasons. What becomes key for you, and remember as a woman, you get proposed. You don't have a luxury of you proposing. So you get proposed. So meaning you're going to have an opportunity or a difficulty of choosing and knowing, because all these guys will come and propose. And the only time for you to know is if you are in a relationship with this particular person. And all of them, when they come, they don't say, I want to come and take you to bed. They say, I want you to be mine, and they say all the right things, you know. And you will not know as a woman his intentions, because he's the one who came with his intentions.
Yeah.
Now, at the end of the day, it's for you to know, and I spoke about the values, it's for you to know what works for you.
Yes.
And you know, define that, and define that place where you want to be. And once you've done all those and you've written them down, and when that person comes and they can fit in that place, and they can fit in that journey, and they can understand your own journey, because remember, people love this V. They love this V who's got weave and then the makeup and it's looking good out there.
Yeah.
But the V that is inside, the real one, they don't actually love him. When she comes out and she shows her weaknesses, we are quickly to say, no, let me discard. Yeah, let me discard her. But the one who comes is going to love V for the good part and the not so good part about V. That you don't feel bad about yourself. Yeah,
yes.
that they also understand that this is a weakness that I'm willing to accept from this person. So once we've accepted each other at that level and understand that this is their journey, this is my journey, I'm willing to walk with them, then you can safely say, at least I've got somebody to walk with. To say he's the one is another story, because even the ones, I mean, you go talk to people who are married, even the ones we thought are the ones have disappointed us. So are we going to measure them based on the disappointment to say they're no longer the one, or how do we measure? So one needs to be careful, because people are going to disappoint you. The ones that love you are going to disappoint you. But the disappointment should not translate to them no longer being the one, because you would have looked at the core of the person, who they are, what they're bringing, how they're making you grow, and how are they supporting you, and vice versa. And I always say that for me, to measure if somebody is the one, there's got to be growth. There's got to be growth.
Yes.
Growth financially, growth intellectually, growth as a person, spiritually. You always have to check, when I met you, where was I? And where am I now? And if there's no growth in both of us, because be careful that people measure growth, Kauri, he bought me an iPhone, or get a laptop. That's not growth.
Tangible things.
That's not growth. It's accumulation of material. So it's not really growth. So growth means, when I met you, I was so childish, but you made me see the world differently. You know, when I met you, I did not know what budgeting means. Now I know what budgeting means. When I met you, I did not think anything about my future, intellectually so, but intellectually I've grown. When I met you, I was not at a good spiritual level. I was going to church, but spiritually I was not matured as I am since I met you, you know. So it's no longer even a matter of going to church, but it's a matter of I can connect with you at a particular spiritual level. So you're able to measure those things. Then you know that you and that person can work together. You are able to say, when they make a mistake and they disappoint you, you, knowing that they're the one, you are able to even see beyond their mistakes. Then you know that the fact that I'm willing to understand that it was a moment of weakness for you, and I was willing to see beyond it, then that means I am able to forgive you, because you cannot live with somebody you can't even forgive.
Yes.
You know, relationships and marriages require a lot of forgiveness. So it's going to be up to you to determine your own course.
Yes.
We walk in different, you know, journeys, and we go to different places. So I cannot give you 5 things to check if somebody is going to be the right one. Because if I give you those 5s and this person breaks 3 of them, then you're going to think, no, he's not the one. What are your own rules? We all have some kind of rules, you know, that guide our lives and processes and whatever that we do on a daily basis. What are your rules? Because you spoke earlier on and you said most of the guys I dated were fun-driven. I'm not worried about that. My question is, what was causing that? You need to understand that, because you are more likely to still attract the one who's going to be fun-driven in the future. And you're going to justify it by saying, no, pelakenya ke motho wa borang.
Yeah.
You know, only to realize that it's actually that trauma that keeps coming. He's now a bit stable, but he's still the same. You know, he's just wearing different color shoes. That's it.
Yes.
So you need to be very careful that you are not still defining yourself based on your past. Define yourself based on who you have become, but also who do you want to become, so that you do not go back to Egypt and pick up the guys that you had left behind.
Yeah.
So where is V going? That's the question that you need to ask when you look for a partner.
Do you believe in right person, wrong time?
Right person, wrong time. I don't believe in that, V, and I'm going to tell you why. I've seen people meeting in very awkward places. And they meet a guy that they thought they would never date. And they make such good couples. And I've seen people letting go of somebody that they thought this is the right guy. The timing was not right. And if that person is not in your life, was not the right person. Even if they can look good for you at that point. And because what you're going to do when I ask you, what do you mean when you say they were right? You're going to say, he is intellectually smart. He is spiritually inclined. You're going to mention things about him, about his character, that you thought were going to work for you. He could have all those, but he might not work for you. You know, you need to find somebody who's like a key to a lock for you. Even if this key is rusted. But the fact that when it enters the lock, it can open the lock, that's the one for you.
Yeah.
It might look good there, but it might still not be good for you.
Yeah.
So usually people want to say he was the right person, but the timing was not right. No, I don't believe in that. You know, and you're going to meet the right one when your time and his time is right. The fact that you met him and you did not make it work, and you've got a lot of people who go back who have dated somebody for a few weeks or so, and it doesn't work. And then they meet him later, they're thinking, you know what, I should have stayed with this guy. Look at how solid he is, how stable he is. He's a good father. No, he wasn't going to be a good man to you. We don't even know what he's gone through for him to become that. You know, so people think that which they've lost would have worked for them. It doesn't work like that.
So then, do you believe people can make a relationship work while healing trauma and just things that they've went through in previous relationships, or just in childhood in general, in like their current relationships, for example, and like genuinely like make it like a long-lasting relationships? Or do you feel like sometimes it's necessary to process the pain alone? Because sometimes it can get, I think reality is sometimes it can get heavy. I know sometimes you have to support people and your partners and stuff like that, but sometimes it can genuinely like weigh you down, not even in a bad way. Like I'm trying, it's hard because I can't imagine what you went through. But because I'm your partner, I'm trying to support you. But do you feel like you should do the work before you get into the relationship, or you can do it in the relationship, or do you think it's a choice? Like, how does it work? Because some people can do it genuinely in a relationship, and some people are strong enough to enjoy that. But what if you're not strong enough to enjoy that? You don't want to see your partner actually enjoy that. Like, how does that work?
There's a story in the Bible about a guy called Moses. And he married this woman called Zipporah. But Moses was a very impatient man. And if you go read the story, we know his history. He killed an Egyptian. He was very impatient. But he married this woman who was so patient. And so patient that when you start to look at the story, you see how this woman fits in the life of this man. That she can reason with him. She can calm him down, you know, and she can make him see the bigger picture. Now, as much as I advocate that people must heal before they go into a relationship, the reason why I would advocate for that is that some people don't know that they are broken. So I would advocate for two people who are broken to meet and start a good relationship, only if they do not own their brokenness, but they are willing to let go of it. They are open about it. They acknowledge it. They know where it is. That when it starts, they can say, oh, it's that thing, it's that thing. But the problem that we are having in relationships is that we have people who are sick, who are broken. They go in relationship and they point a finger to the other one to say, you are the one who's broken. In a situation like that, relationships don't work. You need to know and say, look, I'm acknowledging my past. I did not grow up being loved. I did not grow up being appreciated. And maybe I might come out to be too much for you. And I'm acknowledging that, but I'm willing to work on it. And with you by my side, I'm sure I can make great strides. So once you acknowledge that, and you find somebody who says, look, I too have suffered from this. But with you, if we hold hands together, we can make it work. So in a case like that, people can heal. Nobody's perfect, V.
Yeah.
Let me also help you. That one that you called the one is going to be so broken. It's going to be so imperfect. The problem is that people are going out there to look for a perfect people, and yet they are imperfect. There's no perfect person. All of us are suffering from something. The key is for you to acknowledge and know it so that you're able to manage it.
So then you're saying, so let's say you meet and then you guys have a good relationship, a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
And then you realize that this thing is so good, yet I have so many things like holding me back as a person, and things that I've went through or things that I just never really dealt with. And now you're like, I have this person and I want to make it work with this person, but like, I just have some things to work on. But I'm not saying I can't do it without you. I just feel like I need to do it by myself.
Yeah.
Is that justified?
Yeah. Okay, so this is how we do it. And this is the mistake that many people make. I've got this person, I don't want to lose them. So right there, you start to panic. You're going to make mistakes. You're either going to patch this poor guy and say, look, give me some time. There are things that I want to deal with. And he feels rejected and unwanted by you. Because at the same time, if I love you, invite me into that space. Let me help you heal that space. But also, you need somebody who's mature to understand that. Not somebody that you're going to share that story with, and then he says, yeah, no wonder you are sick. That's immaturity. So go out there and say to him, look, you're a good person, and looking at your values and my values, we align. Bear in mind that hate doesn't mean you don't have values. You have them, but you are hating. I'm hating because of this and this and that.
Right.
I need to deal with that. This person, if they love you, they'll say, V, come here. I'll hold your hand. I'll go through this journey with you. The danger, though, V, with that, V, is that you may have attracted that person from pain. The moment you finish healing, you are pure, you can see clearly, you realize, who's this guy? He's no longer now relevant for the person you have become. That's why you've seen many people, when they finish their healing, they don't want this person anymore because he was used like, a stick that helps you when you're blind. Now that you can see, what is the first thing you throw away? It's the stick. You don't need the stick anymore. So be careful that you might have attracted that person coming from your trauma. And now the trauma is gone, you don't need them anymore. I want to give you a story. There was this lady, her mother died. She was the only child of this mother. And as she was preparing the funeral, one day she went to buy groceries at the supermarket. And when she went to the supermarket, it's a supermarket where she used to go with her mother. She started crying in the car. And as she got out of the car, this guy notices her. She says, Miss, I noticed that you're crying. Is everything okay? And she says, sorry, I'm so silly. Please forgive me. I just lost my mother, and this place reminded me of Mama. The guy says, no, don't worry. What are you here for? And she says, no, I'm here to buy groceries. The guy says, look, do you mind if I go and do groceries with you? She said, no, I don't mind. Went in, started talking. She started to laugh. The guy made it easier for her. Finished buying groceries, and the guy said, look, if you don't mind, I would love to come and support you for your mother's funeral. Changed numbers. The guy went and attended the funeral. And then, obviously, after the funeral, the guy stayed, and obviously they've got the numbers now. They kept in touch. They fell in love. And fall in love, and 9 months later, she's pregnant. They've got a child.
Yeah.
A year later, they're staying together in an apartment. Now, this lady started taking sessions with a psychologist to start healing from the trauma of losing the mother.
Yes.
2 years later, she's healed now. One day, she comes home, she finds this guy sitting in the house, looks at him and says, who are you? This guy says, what do you mean? The guy you fell in love with. Now, she no longer feels that pain anymore. It's gone. What she did, she attached the pain to this guy. So this guy was reminding her of that pain that she carried of her mother. Now, every time she was thinking about the mother, looking at this guy made it easy. I lost the mother, again this guy. But meanwhile, she didn't love this guy. And she only realized that later. So sometimes people fall in love with their own emotions. The way she felt when she thought about the mother at that point, this guy made it easy. She
Yeah.
connected to the emotion and not necessarily the person. And now, 2 years later, she doesn't want this guy anymore. So be careful that you might fall in love with your own traumas, with your own emotions. And because they make the trauma to feel better, you're thinking you love the person. Because why? When you are with them, you feel better. Not that you love them. So be careful that that one that you call the one could be the person that you are going to leave after you heal.
So is it possible to attach? So let's say you went through something very traumatic and now you're in a relationship, very healthy, very happy. There's actually, obviously every relationship has its problems, but there's
Sure.
not really something like wrong in the relationship. But now you realize that this trauma is going to, if you stick it out with this person, you might attach that trauma to them.
Yeah.
Because obviously as my partner, I will come to you and I'll speak to you about my problems. And for me, I'm going to be the medication. So now you fall in love with that because now, like you said, I'm numbing that pain. And when you're with me, you know, I feel fine and some sort of relief. So now if you attach yourself and you're like, I must find help, I must get help, I must go to therapy, I must deal with this actual thing. Is that a healthy way of doing it? Because you don't want to attach it to the person and now you're falling in love with the person because they healed you
Yes.
when you were hurting.
Yeah. You know, we in psychology, when people come in, we also have what we call attachment disorders. You know, people don't know that. And that's why people confuse that with love and all sorts of things. But you're suffering from an attachment disorder. So it's always key that you are aware. Hence I said, what is key and important is for you to be aware that I'm suffering from something. That when you eventually meet somebody, you don't go to them purely because you are running away from this into them. You are aware that I need to be in love with you, but because I'm identifying you with a situation, therefore maybe I need to heal the situation first so that I can be sure if indeed I need to bring you into my life. But the problem that I'm going to shock you, NRV, is that because people live life through defense mechanisms, most people don't know that they're suffering from something. And that's where the problem is. That's why when you said, I'm looking for companionship, I said, that's what you say. That's not what your subconscious is saying. So you and your subconscious are saying two different things. It's always best, and I always say that before people can get serious, go see a relationship therapist or coach who can assess both of you and pick up if there's any issue in both. Because the fact that a guy is educated and drives a nice car, stays alone in an estate does not mean he's successful. He could be the most abuser of note. So you thinking because he's got all that, therefore he's the right candidate for me to be in love with. You could be so wrong. I mean, we've seen, the movies, we've seen the cases of GBV and so forth from the very same people. They could be also suffering from something that they haven't dealt with. When you come, you become their victim. And you call that love. That's why you see most people love to remain in toxic relationships. You think about the toxic relationships you've had, and you keep going back to that because you identify with your pain. You love it there. You love feeling that pain that they instill in you. People don't even realize that.
Yeah, okay. I actually like this conversation. It feels like a therapy session. It's so nice. Thank you.
Look, I think at the end of the day, we need to acknowledge that we're not having these conversations just to talk.
True.
There's somebody out there listening and saying, but I'm going through the same thing.
Yeah.
And we need people to heal. I was talking to somebody earlier on and I said, that Unveiling the Veil book that you saw, that I just released.
Yeah.
It's for women to heal. And we've got other books for men that we've written. It's for men to heal. People go into relationships to heal in those relationships, but when they get there, they become comfortable in their pains.
Yes.
And that's why you hear people saying, but accept me for who I am. Then I ask them, who are you? Then they define themselves based on their sufferings. And if you go to the Bible, you see many of that happening. Even when Jeremiah defined himself, he says, but I'm the least in my family. I'm nobody. People define themselves based on their their sufferings and their traumas that they have encountered in their families of origin.
Yeah.
We need to heal, whether we like it or not. So tomorrow when we meet a potential partner, we need to ask them,
Yeah.
what are your sufferings? What are your weaknesses? What are your blind spots? You know, let's not talk only about the nice things. What are the not so nice things about you? The problem is that you guys, when a guy says to you, oh, I've got a problem of impatience. I don't want an impatient man. But the guy is being open to you and say, I'm aware of what my weakness is. And what do? You run away from him.
Yes.
So what does he do? He no longer speaks about his weaknesses now. Now he puts a different mask on that shows confidence to say, I'm a confident man. Once you bring him in, he goes back into his comfort zone. That mask falls off. The real person now is exposed. You think, but what changed he is? No, he hasn't changed. The mask has fallen off.
Yeah.
Now the real person is exposed. You don't know who you married.
So, thank you. Before we wrap up, for example, for me, and in my experience with relationships and from who I was and who I am now, I think my biggest takeaway in relationships is that it takes maturity to be in relationships. And I believe that relationships don't require sacrifice. And there shouldn't be such thing as like sacrificial love. I don't think you need to sacrifice something in order to be someone. I think it takes compromise. And that's where you said values come in. You need to now sit down and see what are you willing to work with the person in that relationship, whatever it may be. So I believe that relationships really take sacrifice, and love is actually out there. Everyone can find someone that can genuinely fall in love with and get married and be this big happy family. And for people who've lost hope, I haven't lost hope. I'm never going to lose hope, regardless of how many times I've gotten hurt. That's God's promise. Love is kind and love is patient, and you will find it. And I don't doubt that. But for someone who's possibly doubting that they will never find someone who's compatible enough to be with them, or who can have a family with them, or whatever it may be, like, what's one thing you'll say to them, like, right now?
Look, you just said it there when you say love is out there. And I always go back to environment. Usually people who give up on love, they haven't given up on love. They've given up on themselves. And they say, I don't think I'll ever find somebody who will understand me. But at the core, they don't even understand themselves.
Yeah.
They can't even live with themselves. But they expect somebody to live with them. It's those people that give love a bad name, that they are not willing to work on themselves and accept that you are toxic. I was watching The Ultimatum on Netflix, and there's this particular woman, I don't want to call her name. But
I can. Okay. Can I say it for you? Talking about Kanya?
Yes, I talk about Kanya. You know, and I'm not here to vilify her, but her bitterness, her sickness is written all over. You know, and she sees everybody else as a problem and not herself.
But herself, yes.
And a person like that is going to be living one day alone in a house and say, we were not created for relationships. It's a lie. You need to go seek help. You are sick. You are pushing people away. You're pushing people who want to love you away. People are queuing. They are begging to come and love you. You have built walls because somebody has hurt you somewhere. You go into relationships to go and look for what your father didn't do for you. If you don't find it, all men are bad. You know? So don't give relationships and love a bad name because you are having a bad issue within yourself. Also, you go around attracting people based on your pain and say people are bad. People are not bad. You are just attracting those who are like you. In Afrikaans, but soort soek soort. Birds of a feather flock together. You are more likely to go and attract people who are also hurting.
Yeah.
And they will come and hurt you. Now let me give you another scenario. There are women who says, it seems now I attract guys that I must heal. No, something's wrong with you. You are the one who needs the healing. But you're projecting your pain onto them. And you're thinking, because you are also suffering from the same thing, you become the first man to them to say, let me heal you. Meanwhile, you need the healing. And those become toxic relationships. So be able to identify if something is toxic. And usually, we also look at our background and say, because my aunt, my uncle, my mother has gone through it, therefore, we are destined to go through this. You must refuse some of these things. You know, you must say that the fact that my mother went through it, I'm not going to go through it. Because I am going to be the first one in my family to go out there and actually look for healing. And once I found healing, only then I'll bring in somebody. You know, when you wear yellow glasses, V, you're going to see everything as yellow. And you're going to go telling people that the world is yellow. Until you take off the yellow glasses, you will never see a different perspective. So there's love out there. And stop falling in love out of need. Fall in love based on your values and who you are. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Mr. Elijah. Thank you so much. I took away a lot from this episode. Very grateful. And I hope someone watching it can also learn as much as I learn and open their minds up to the realities of what it actually is and means to be in a relationship. So thank you so much for coming today. I really enjoyed today's conversation. It was very healthy and very healing. And thank you guys so much for watching today's episode. Tell us actually in the comment section what you took away from, today's episode. And yeah, man, love is patient, love is kind, and you are meant to be loved. Thank you so much. And please follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and subscribe on the channel. Share with your friends. Follow Busang Studios on TikTok and Instagram. And I will see you guys next week. Stay safe and bye.